Jakorian Bennett is here to play. It just may not be the position you think. Dallas still stinks. Yo, by the way, kick Dingbat here. Jakorian Bennett is here to play. It just may not be the position you think. Everybody says he is last year's Isaiah Rodgers. I say maybe, just maybe, he's this year's C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Now, we're going to get into it. There's a lot to talk about today. But before we do that, as always, the Eagles took the field. It was a much lighter practice than we've seen the last few days, primarily because they got a close walkthrough tomorrow, and then they got a game Thursday night versus the Cincinnati Bengals, who, by the way, have said they're going to play their starters. The Eagles haven't decided yet. Recent history tells us they won't, especially with two practices with the Browns next week. But the Bengals will be playing their starters. Now, for today, as far as practice goes, here's as always, the Eagles injury report. John McMullen wrote this: Eagles Tuesday practice report. Will not practice. Zach Bond back. A.J. Brown hamstring. Montrell Johnson hamstring. Byron Young groin. Now, the thing with Bond and Brown, I don't believe they're anything too serious. Nick Sirianni talked about getting those guys back sometime soon, or he couldn't wait. So I think they'll be ready to go when it matters. Limited Lewis Sign hamstring, Charlie Hewlett neck, Trevor Keegan back, Terrence Marshall knee. He was back at practice. That was good. Mac McWilliams, Andrew Mukuba. Now they took part in team drills for the first time since coming back, which was good. And then Matt Pryor shoulder. Jakorian Bennett was at practice today, was just basically watching. I highly doubt he's going to end up starting or playing, not starting, but playing Thursday. I'd be shocked. So we're going to have to wait and see. But we'll get into him in a second. As far as practice goes, I always like when Elliot Shore-Parks puts this up, right? Jalen Hurts training camp stats for day 10. 12 of 20, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception. The interception came off of Cooper DeJean, who was at safety when he did it, and he gave him a grade of a B+. 5 touchdowns, 1 interception. Did you get a B+? That's it. He said Jalen Hurts training camp stats. Hurts practice on Tuesday had some extreme highs and extreme lows. The Eagles had a bit of light practice, but still did plenty of team drills around the red zone. Hurts took advantage of it, throwing 5 touchdowns, which is exactly what you saw, basically. So, whatever. I always find that to be a very, very funny thing, okay? Now, in terms of practice, it's a lot more of the same. Moro Ajomo, another great practice. Another sack. I mean, he blew it up so quick today that they had to blow the play dead. They didn't even let the play continue. Okay, so Ajomo is the real deal. And he's probably a big reason why they're like, look, we got a lot of defensive tackles that can play. We can afford to make a trade, okay? Zach Berman wrote, Cooper DeJean gets his first interception of camp of Jalen Hurts, we talked about earlier. Jalen Hurts threw the ball up while Jeremiah Trotter Jr. blitzed, and Goddard stumbled in the end zone, leading to an easy catch for DeJean. Also, DeJean got beat on a touchdown pass from Hurts to Jahan Dotson. That connection seems like it's really gotten better since last year. We saw Jalen Hurts really start to trust Jahan Dotson a little more as we went into the playoffs. I think you're going to see that connection be pretty good this year. I'm very excited about it, And then as always, it's a lot of the same things. Elijah Cooks, another catch. He had a couple touchdown catches. He continues to flash. At what point do the Eagles say, look, Johnny Wilson may be a good blocker and all that, but we can't just let this kid go? So I would say this. I would say that right now it looks like the Eagles probably, if I had to guess, keep at least 5 receivers, right? A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Jahan Dotson, probably Marshall, and then what, Wilson or Cooks. Hopefully, look, I think Cooks is doing enough that he deserves it. He deserves it, Ringo made a play, broke a play up. We should have had an interception. Apparently, he got frustrated, ran into, I guess, sideline judge or whatever. But he should have had a pick. And, it's really, really interesting right now, man, because I feel kind of bad for Kelee Ringo. I feel like I feel like everybody is doubting him. Everybody is like, the reason that the Eagles made this trade, the reason that they did it is because Ringo can't play. Ringo can't play. This is what people say, okay? However, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure what to expect. And I'm not making any judgments one way or the other right now. I'm just going to wait and sit back and see what the plan is. But Ed Kratz had an interesting article. He said, Eagles' new acquisition could challenge to start. He goes on to talk about the competition that they had at cornerback and stuff like this. Now, here's what Nick Sirianni said about the trade and what's going on at that spot. You tell me, based upon what he said, that this kid is being brought in to play that outside corner, right? Listen to this. Here's what Nick said. Quote, just adding depth to the position. That's why he said they acquired him, for depth. I don't believe that. I think both guys have done an outstanding job. I know Vic talked about that on Monday. That's a battle. You love having battles. I think you could look out there and you see Adoree' make a play. Then you see Kelee make a play. So he's saying that they've done an outstanding job, right? Both those guys have done, this is what he says about Adoree' Jackson and Ringo. Both those guys have done an outstanding job. And Vic did say that they were doing okay yesterday. He said they're doing a really nice job, excited about how they worked all off season, how they worked all summer, and came in here ready to compete. Competition brings out the best in all our guys. We're looking forward to continuing those battles with those guys. One of the more under-the-radar parts of the off-season was the loss of reserve Isaiah Rodgers, who left in free agency, but was a pivotal piece at cornerback as a reserve. Adding Bennett could allow either him, Jackson, or Ringo to slide into that role. See, that's what everybody is talking about. He's here to replace Isaiah Rodgers. He's here to replace Isaiah Rodgers. Well, listen, if you're telling me that two guys are doing really good job on the outside, they're doing an outstanding job on the outside, if that's what you're telling me, then I'm not so sure I buy that this kid is here to replace and be that Isaiah Rodgers. I think you have that in Eli Ricks. What I'm saying to you is, look, they're probably here for outside corner. Okay, fine, whatever. But think about it in terms of other ways, right? What if this kid is brought in to be the safety? Right? See, we have historical evidence last few years that the Eagles will take a corner and they will convert him to safety on the fly. They did it with C.J. Gardner-Johnson. He was trade one and he was starting at safety. And boom, it was there. What if that's the case? What if we hear Vic Fangio talking about how much he likes Cooper DeJean? I would be curious today. How many snaps did Cooper DeJean get in the slot? How many snaps did Cooper DeJean get at safety? Because if he starts getting safety, more snaps at safety, what if they put this kid in the slot and they move Cooper DeJean to safety? If Adoree' Jackson and Ringo are having an outstanding camp like Nick Sirianni said, then why would you bother them? Why would you mess it up? I don't know exactly what the Eagles' plan is, but I know everybody's assuming it's just because Ringo or just because Adoree' Jackson have not been good. I can tell you this: if Adoree' Jackson if they're not happy with him, he'll get cut. He'll get cut once they feel comfortable with this kid on the outside. But I'm not so sure. And I'm not saying I'm making a judgment either way. I don't know. I want to see how he practices, right? He didn't practice today. Tomorrow's a closed walkthrough. Thursday's a game I doubt he plays. Friday's a day off. So maybe by Saturday, we can see him start taking reps and practicing. Does he get reps on the outside? Do they put him in the slot? Do they move him at safety? Like, I want to see how they use him. The one thing that we've heard for certain, and we know for certain, with that safety position that we have to replace, is the biggest issue for them is a guy that can cover. This is what they said. That's the most important part of that spot. They need a guy that can cover. This kid has the athleticism to do it. He's a little bit bigger than Makuba, so it's not like he's not big enough. But if it's to cover, could this kid come in and the Eagles do what they did with C.J. Gardner-Johnson? I'm not saying it's going to happen. Most people don't. Most people have written Adoree Jackson and Ringo off. I'm not, because I haven't seen them play one snap, even preseason football yet. But I'm not so sure how they're going to use this kid just yet. I really want to wait and see. It would not surprise me if he lines up in the slot. With the way Vic Fangio gushes over thought of Cooper DeJean playing safety, and DeJean has a pick today at safety, it would not surprise me one bit if this kid starts taking snaps at the slot and they hope to put him there. Or, because he's played slot corner before. He's played on the outside and he's played slot. Or, it wouldn't surprise me if he's taking snaps on the outside. Is it possible he could win the job and they move Ringo to safety? I don't know. There's a lot that they can do. My hope is this. My hope is that whatever we're doing, that this move will shore up that secondary. People consider there to be 2 question marks. If we go by based upon what Nick Sirianni said, outstanding jobs by Adoree Jackson and Kelee Ringo, then this kid's not here to play outside corner. I'm just saying. Now, do I believe he's exactly going to say anything different? No, I think he's going to say good things about those guys, because that's what coaches do. But it's going to be interesting to see what they do with this kid. I'm not so sold that it's for the reason everybody else thinks it is. With that said, I will have a preview video for the preseason game tomorrow. I might be back later tonight. You never know. And then, of course, Thursday, we are live for the game. With that said, take care. Talk to you later. Of course, don't be a dingbat. Remember, it's how we vision. We're all just living in it. So one thing, I want to point out with Jakorian Bennett and C.J. Gardner-Johnson, right? When C.J. Gardner-Johnson came to the Eagles, he was 5'11", 200 pounds. This kid right now is 5'10", 200 pounds. So he's an inch smaller than C.J. Gardner-Johnson, but they were about the same weight. Johnson put on weight the last few years, I think, to 208, somewhere around there. 208, 210, because he knew he was going to play safety. But when he first converted to safety, he was like 200, 205, somewhere around there. This kid's about the same size as C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Could he do what C.J. Gardner-Johnson did? Just a thought. Denzel Washington out.
Oh, God. No. I want to be like the Eagles.
That's all, folks.
The brother screwed us.